Good evening and or good morning. um, yes. So let's begin in the kind of usual way, right? So first, um, let's just adjust. Ooh, could you enable participant screen sharing for me, please? Okay. So maybe let's begin with just a little motivation verse here. Okay, so I think I've brought this one up before, but the great Indian master Chandrakirti, he said, now I have independence and favorable conditions. If I do not take full advantage of this time, I'll plunge into the abyss and fall under the control of others, and then who will lift me out? So it is mentioned that one of the great Kadamba masters, he would always recite this one stanza at the beginning of all of his meditation sessions. So we can also reflect on this at the beginning of, a study session, a practice session throughout our whole lives. So now that we have this independence, means the freedom and the favorable conditions, to practice Dharma, to make utmost progress along the path to true happiness, liberation, and enlightenment. If we don't take full advantage now, then later we won't find ourselves in such favorable conditions, and then we'll plunge into the abyss. So here it can be seen as the abyss of the lower realms, or even falling under the control of others means can be other people that prevent us from practice. It can also just be other kind of circumstances that wouldn't have us, in the with the ability to practice as we can now. And then when that's the case, who will lift me out? So now is the time, while we still have this human body, and we have all the favorable conditions for study and practice, that we have to make best use of them. And then, as we mentioned before, yes, making best use of them, isn't just to think about our own happiness, although it is true that we do want happiness and want to avoid suffering. But here now, we should set our sights a bit higher, reflecting that all sentient beings are just like us, wanting to achieve happiness and wanting to be free from suffering. So now that we're in this situation, we should do something that is most beneficial for ourselves and others. And that would be then to develop our minds along the path to full enlightenment, the state characterized by all the qualities, all the knowledge, all the abilities to benefit sentient beings in the best, most effective way. And therefore, in order to do that, we need to learn about all the various practices that lead to enlightenment. And therefore, we're going to take part in this study session, in this lecture. And also, please keep this in mind when we do all the various readings and practices as well. Okay. So that's one. And then we'll do, oops. Let me zoom in a bit. Okay. So we had done this refuge prayer and generating bodhicitta with the listening to the Dharma. So we can just do that here again. So yeah, you can, we'll do the English first, and then we'll chant the Tibetan. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay, I lost mindfulness and I forgot to switch to Tibetan, but that's okay. All right. So now I thought, in the beginning of our various sessions, we can do a little bit different things. And one other sort of prayer that is done many times at the beginning of either a practice session or a teaching is the recitation of this foundation of all good qualities, which, by the way, is, memorizing it, if you haven't already, is one of your assignments. We'll talk about that in a bit. But, it's always good. Well, first of all, why is it your assignment? It's not a punishment, okay? But as you'll see, this prayer composed by Lama Tsongkhapa, okay, it's called the foundation of all good qualities because the first words of it is the foundation of all good qualities, okay? But actually, it's one of these quote unquote short Lam Rim prayers, okay? And so, as you know, Lam Rim, the stages of the path, this module is presenting the path. So actually, it's an entire overview of the Lam Rim. And so there are many of these prayers, these short Lam Rim prayers, which this one I think is 14 verses, but all of the various meanings that we are going to cover in the next 2 years, actually, then are presented in these 14 stanzas. And so it is, and has been the practice of the gurus, the lamas, the practitioners for many centuries to memorize these short Lam Rim prayers, and then you can use it as a sort of guide to meditate. And I'm not sure, those of you who did the first module, we had the self-assessment kind of exam, and in that we had one stanza where I was asked all of you, or those who took the self-assessment, to give a commentary on that stanza. And so, as you'll see, each of these little phrases is so packed with meaning. And so we memorize this in a kind of brief, abbreviated way, but then when we meditate, we can think of each phrase and what the deeper significance is, and sort of unpack the meaning. And then we get to a very rich understanding, and we can sustain that then in our meditation. Okay, so I'll talk about some tips and tricks how to memorize in a bit. Have any of you started to memorize this? Okay. Anyway, so we'll just do the English here. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect guru. Correctly following the guru is the root of the path. By my clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon the guru with great respect. When I have discovered that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is extremely difficult to find again, and is greatly meaningful, please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind, taking its essence day and night. This body and life are changing like a water bubble. Remember how quickly they perish and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be conscientious and abandon even the slightest collection of shortcoming, and in accomplishing all virtuous deeds. When I've recognized the shortcomings of samsaric perfections, there's no satisfaction in enjoying them. They are the door to all suffering. They cannot be trusted. Please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Through my being led by this pure thought, with great remembrance, alertness, and conscientiousness, please bless me to make keeping the individual liberation vows, the root of the teachings, my essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother transmigratory beings. By my seeing this, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing transmigratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, without familiarizing myself with the three types of morality, I cannot achieve enlightenment. By my seeing this well, please bless me to keep the vows of the sons of the victorious ones with fervent effort. By my having pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to quickly generate within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. When I have become a suitable vessel by training in the common path, please bless me to immediately enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme of all vehicles, the Vajrayana. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping my vows and samaya purely. When I have gained effortless conviction in this, please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my life. Then, when I have realized exactly the vital points of the two stages, the essence of the tantric sect, and am enjoying the yoga of 4 sessions with effort without being distracted by non-meditation objects, please bless me to accomplish these according to the teachings of the holy beings. Thus, may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path and the spiritual practitioners who correctly accomplish it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay. So by the end of this course, all of you, you'll be able to give a really complete, beautiful commentary of this stanza. Really. Yeah. I made some kind of review videos coming out of the exam questions from module 1. Not sure if you guys read that, but part of what I did, or what I tried to do, is kind of give a pep talk, you know, like a coach at halftime, right? And one point that I brought up, which I'll emphasize again here, you know, is we all have to kind of take on this personal responsibility, right? I think even in the Foundation of All Good Qualities prayer, right? It says, you know, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, you know, which takes the responsibility for freeing transmigratory beings or something like this, right? So this concept of, you know, taking responsibility. Those of you who know Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and when he does the dedication verses, there's always this thought, you know, may I liberate all sentient beings from samsara by myself alone, you know, kind of emphasizing this, this again and again. So now to put it into perspective for us, right? You know, when we look in the world, right now, there's what, 14 of us on this call, right? There's over 7 billion people in the world, right? And how many are have all the outer and inner conditions, like Chandrakirti mentioned, to practice the Dharma, to study the Dharma, to take time to engage in a long-term, in-depth study program like this. It's very rare, very, very rare. So I had this thought that now through the beauty of technology, then people from around the world are all tuning into this. So I had this thought, by the end of this course, it very well might be the case that within your zip code, you will have the most Dharma study of everyone in your zip code. Think about that. Then seriously, and then for some, maybe your congressional district. Seriously, think about it, right? I mean, think about, like, say your high school, or even the university you went to. How many of your classmates have engaged in a in-depth study program, right? No, I mean, you'd probably be hard pressed to find even someone who knows someone who is doing this, right? So to think, oh, there's so many great scholars, great practitioners out there. Well, maybe, but you think about it this way: the people you're coming into contact with on a daily basis, right? How many of them are meeting His Holiness the Dalai Lama? How many of them are meeting Lama Zopa Rinpoche, right? So we all have the people that we are coming into contact with. We all have the unique kind of karmic relationships with people. And I brought this up when we talked about the Buddha's first teaching, right? There are those 5 first disciples who, during the course of his teaching on the first 4 Noble Truths, they got liberation, right? Like in the span of like the first stanza that the Buddha taught, these first 5 monks, they all got liberation. And well, why was that? Of course, that didn't just come without causes and conditions, but part of the cause of that was the Buddha had in a previous life been a king, and there were these kind of cannibalistic or blood drinking spirits in this certain area, and they're eating the people in the land. So the Buddha in his past life, he called these spirits and said, okay, please don't kill my subjects anymore. What is it you want? Okay, you're blood drinkers. Take my blood instead. Okay. So the Bodhisattva, with great compassion, of course, for his subjects, but also for these blood drinking spirits, didn't want them to engage in killing anymore. So he gave his own blood to them. And then while he did that, he thought, okay, he made aspirational prayer that later, when I become enlightened, may I satisfy them also with the Dharma, right? So anyway, due to the kind of karmic link established many lifetimes ago, then these 5 became the first 5 disciples of the Buddha and became liberated from samsara. So anyway, it is said that all of the Buddhas have the same qualities, the same level of realization, but how they do differ is, well, one, the disciples that they have in their retinue. And that is because, we all have sort of different karmic connections with different beings. And so anyway, the point is, although, yes, it's true, there are countless Buddhas, there's countless Bodhisattvas, there's countless great practitioners. Well, still, there's countless sentient beings who haven't been liberated by any of them, right? Yeah. So some, when you become a Buddha, you're going to lead them to enlightenment, right? Wow. It's then it gets a little bit serious, because then if you really think in this way, it's like there's those beings that you're going to lead to enlightenment once you're Buddha. It's like they're waiting for you now, they're like, oh, so then every second that goes by, every day that goes by, when we're not enlightened, the ones we're leading to enlightenment are also not enlightened. They're also not liberated. So then they're also still in samsara. That means they're suffering. So then taking the responsibility, oh, I have to do something because these ones are waiting for me, to think like that. Okay, how's that sound? Yeah. And then on a more practical level, what I'm hoping for, think about this, there might be a time a couple years from now, and sometimes I get calls. Let's hope that the coronavirus pandemic ends quickly and we can all travel and like do things again. So it might be the case that I get a call in a few years, and they say, oh, Namjong, yeah, we're interested in learning Dharma. Can you please come and give us some teachings? I say, okay, well, where are you? Oh yeah, but we're in New York. I'll say, oh no, you know what? I'm in South India. I'm not gonna travel to New York. But you know what? I know this person, Mary. She's so good. Have her come and give you the talk. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Why not? So then I'll do that. And then I'll call you up, Mary. I'll say, okay, it's your time. Okay. It can happen. So anyway, we motivated now? Yes. Yeah. I wonder sometimes. I heard, not blaming anyone, but I heard just a rumor, maybe true, maybe not. But sometimes, not with you guys, but with other groups with this DB program, the level of seriousness, it was like kind of a hobby, like Sunday, okay, I'll go to the DB lecture, it's like kind of entertainment, 2 hours. It's like, okay, I won't watch a movie. That's kind of non-virtuous. But instead of watching a movie, I'll watch, this DB lecture. But the same kind of, I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place this morning. But I'm just reminded, a few years ago, there was a kind of movement, or, in Sera. Okay. I think all of you know I'm at Sera J Monastic University here in South India. So in Tibet, in ancient Tibet, there were three great seats, they call it, seat, like sitting on a chair, of monastic learning, Sera, Drepung, and Ganden. And since the Tibetans came in exile, then the Indian government gave tracts of land to the Tibetans. and they reestablished these monasteries here in South India. And now they're, well, now it's been difficult with the lockdowns, but up until a few years ago, they were all very much flourishing. There are, thousands of monks, and, produce many great scholars here in exile. And within the monastery, there are the kamsins, or you can think of like regional houses. Yeah, maybe kind of like, Oxford will have, Christchurch and different colleges like this, right? Within Sera, there are these kind of, they're more residential houses. And we get together every so often. And a few times a year, there is the senior monks and geshes, they give advice to all the monks. And a few years ago, one of the geshes, one kind of favorite theme that comes up is, how it was in Tibet versus now how it is in India, right? And although, there's a lot better kind of external conditions here, then many times the geshes, they sort of lament in these degenerate times how it's just not the same. There's been a degeneration. And one of the things they mention actually is that in Tibet, even when they went to the philosophical classes, about half the time was just the teacher kind of giving advice, not going through the text, not through the philosophy, but more advice about, motivation, how to practice, like this. So he was saying, now it seems that tradition had kind of degenerated, and now, I don't know, maybe because people, now we have exams, now we have all this stuff, and so like the academic side is getting so much emphasized. But if we do that alone and not kind of keep in mind the big picture, you can kind of lose, and then it can become very dry, just memorizing, these different facts and what's the point? So anyway, I thought to give these little pep talks. So there you are. All right. So now let's continue. Can you see the slide? Yeah, okay. All right. So again, review. These are the topics we're covering in module 3 now. So we had these life story of the Buddha, short history of Buddhism, the correct way to listen to the teachings, and then the stages of the path to enlightenment, lower scope, middle scope, including the Four Noble Truths, and higher scope. So we've already went through the life story of the Buddha. We went through a short history of Buddhism. Okay, we touched upon the correct way to listen to the teachings. Now, when I was doing the reading, actually, in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, there were a few things that kind of came up that made me think there's maybe a few gaps in the history of Buddhism that we gave. That's okay. We'll fill those later. But yeah, just to give this kind of overview, right? All right. So now, all of you, by now, I think you've done the reading from Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Yes, okay. So I'll mention this, but actually, if you went on the Wisdom Publications website, Wisdom Publications is the one who published this. They have a link to the outlines that our sister center in Boston, Kurukula Center, they made these outlines of the liberation of palm your hand. So this tradition of the outlines, the Tibetans love it, okay? And yeah, the Tibetans love it. So, you know, when we go to debate, yeah, just so you know, normally how a debate starts is you'll be given a fragment of a quotation, okay? So like for example, okay, so someone will just say, like, for example, should train in bodhicitta. Okay, we do a clap at the end of everything. So they give you just this fragment, and then you, okay, the person answering, you have to then identify in whatever text you're studying which outline that has come from. Okay, and then you give the kind of passage before the little fragment they gave. And then ideally, you would then, okay, you then, if it comes from whatever outline, they'll say, okay, and with that one outline, let's say you're given a quotation from this number 3, how to teach and listen to the Dharma that has these 2 greatnesses. They'll say, okay, and how many outlines are with that? Then you say 3. What are the other 3? And then you say the greatness of the author to show the treatise as a immaculate story, the greatness of Dharma, right? So you can see, later these outlines, they'll have then sub outlines and sub outlines. So, in the debate, like every day, we're putting wherever we are in the text, we go back all the way kind of to the beginning. And so by doing this over and over again, you have a kind of overall framework, and you can see then where everything fits together. Okay, so I'm quite a proponent of this way of studying, and I definitely recommend you go. Well, you can take it on the Kurukule page, right, where they have all these, and they have a function where you can expand or collapse the outlines. And just as a review, you can look at them, and then even by just this title, then to yourself as a way of testing, say, okay, what is talked about in that one, right? So, the number 3, we actually touched on last week, where we were talking about how to teach and listen to the Dharma that has these 2 greatnesses. So what did we talk about in that? There's the 3 faults of the vessel and the 6 attitudes, So, you can just do this to review. Okay. Oh, in that outline, yeah, the 3 faults of the vessel, what were those again? Okay, upside down, one with a hole. Oh yeah, a dirty vessel. Okay, and what are those like? And kind of like this. It's a very, very effective way to test yourself, and then to make sure that you're focusing in on the most important points. Okay, so anyway, here, these are the kind of root outlines, and these 4 outlines actually you'll find in all of the Lamrim texts. So these outlines themselves are in the Great Stages of the Path to Enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa, and here they are again verbatim in the Liberation of the Palm your hand. Okay. So I also, did the reading, and in it, it talks about the importance that, even though you might have heard these teachings on these kind of preliminaries, right? Because the real one is number 4, right? The actual instructions, right? So people can sometimes think, oh, well, I want the real thing, and then there's less interest in these preliminaries. But Pabong Rinpoche is very clear in saying, even if you've received the teachings, or your audience has received the teachings on these preliminaries, many times, you still should do them. So anyway, now what we mentioned last time, when we put this with what we're trying to cover, I was saying the greatness of the authors, though in the Lamrim it talks about Atisha, and we went over his life story, then all of these instructions are actually from the Buddha, right? They have their ultimate source in the Buddha's own words, the Buddha's own teachings. So that's why we talked about the Buddha's life story. We also then went through the life story of Atisha somewhat. And then why is this? Well, given to show the teachings have an immaculate source. So again, putting this in the larger context, remember that time when Atisha went to Tibet, it was a time when the Dharma had degenerated, and there was many different wrong views, and a lot of people, they came up with their own kind of interpretations of the Buddha Dharma. And so part of the project that both Atisha and then later Lama Tsongkhapa were trying to do is to always establish the teachings as not something that they themselves made up, but rather that it has this source, a valid source in the Buddha's own words. And so now when you see, you look in the Lamrim, Chenmo, Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand, you'll find all these quotations that are given from the great Indian masters like Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Shantideva, Chandrakirti, and so forth. Okay, so now it kind of occurred to me, maybe some of you who aren't familiar with those names so much, it might just be worth mentioning because we also now have a short history of Buddhism, right? So I did mention last week about how Buddhism then spread from India to some of the other countries. And I mentioned how Buddhism spread from India directly to Tibet. But in the intervening time period from the time when the Buddha passed away, which was, approximately, 500 BC, maybe what, 470 BC about, right? Until, the 8th century. For those, hundreds and hundreds of years, then, Buddhism was also very much practiced and followed, adhered to in India, particularly North India. And when I mention these, great Indian masters, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and so forth, they all had studied at a great monastic institution called Nalanda, which is in now present-day Bihar. Bihar, which is a state in North India. That's actually where also the Bodhi tree, the place where the Buddha manifested enlightenment. It's reasonably close by. Anyway, you can still go there, and they've sort of uncovered some of the ruins, of course, with different imaging systems from above. They now see that what they've uncovered, is just one mere fraction of the vast kind of complex than it was in its heyday. But anyway, there were, to some accounts, tens of thousands of monks there at Nalanda, and these names that I'm mentioning, they all were scholars from Nalanda, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself, he some decades ago, he wrote a prayer in praise of the 17 Nalanda Pandits. So there are 17 that he particularly singled out as making a unique and great contribution to the preservation and promotion and interpretation, elucidation, if you will, of the Buddha's teachings. And anyway, these teachings now that we have now in the Lamrim, they were taught by the Buddha. They were then passed down through these generation of Indian scholars, and then were transmitted to Tibet, and then further passed down to today. So part of this thing that you'll see again and again is this concept of the lineage, So it's very important. Tibetans love talking about this lineage, where the teachings are transmitted from guru to disciple, and these lineages have to be unbroken from the time of the Buddha to sort of maintain their kind of power. And so anyway, these lineages are still intact. There are other kind of teachings where the lineage has been broken, and now then they say there's kind of no way to resurrect that. So anyway, just for your knowledge, one of the main projects that Lama Zopa Rinpoche has been doing in recent years has been to sponsor the transmission of some of the rare lineages that were in danger of being lost. And so, some of you who are more familiar with the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, you maybe have seen some of these teachings being sponsored by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Okay, so that is a bit on the greatness of the authors. Then the greatness of the Dharma given to increased respect for the instruction. All right, so what I wanted to do in today's session, let's see how much time we have, but I want to cover that and then we can break. Okay, so anyway, this first one, the greatness of the authors, this then had the subheadings, right? As I mentioned, in the both liberation of the palm of your hand, as well as the great stages of the path to enlightenment, the Lamrim Chenmo, then it then gives the life story of Atisha. So yeah, actually, it wasn't in your reading for last week, but it will be for this week. So on day 2, then it goes more into this. And just to let you know, there will be a lot of talk about these lineages that I mentioned. And Vibhanga Rinpoche talks about the there's the southern lineage that went through this. So this is what I was saying. The Tibetans, they love the lineage and being able to trace back. It's kind of like one of my aunts actually, she did all this work trying to put together our family tree. So it's a little bit like that. They research, and they can trace back all the lineage, which is good. But for most of us, for our purpose, it's not extremely important to know all those details. Okay, I'm not going to ask you, all the names to trace back these lineages all the way back to the Buddha. But generally speaking, there's a few kind of key things to know. Anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. But just with this, it talks about how Atisha was born into one of the highest families. So here again, it's rather light reading. It just talks about these various stories, but some of you will already draw a parallel to the Buddha with Atisha's life story, because Atisha also was born in a royal family. Then he leaves that royal family to go and practice, and then he attains all these very good qualities and benefits sentient beings immensely. So that is very parallel to the Buddha's own life story. So there's a saying. One of the Kadampa masters, then he says that he studies these life stories of the great masters, sort of as so that he can train like them, right? So just like even in worldly life, there are these great titans of industry, or great politicians, and they have the biographies of them, sometimes the autobiographies, and so many this genre of literature has become and still is very popular, because these people that we look up to, then we read about how they did it, and then we can think about ways to emulate. So we do that here with the biographies of the masters in the lineage, and so to think both Atisha and the Buddha kind of turning away from the worldly life. Okay, yeah, that has a lesson for us too, and anyway, just to make it kind of real and practical for you, that's the point. And all these other kind of details, yeah, maybe don't have to memorize all that. Okay. But then in this second outline about how he attained good qualities in that very rebirth, so I think I mentioned that the main kind of element of Atisha's life story that gets talked about and emphasized again and again is that at one point he was in Bodh Gaya when where the Buddha was enlightened, and there's a stupa there, and then he hears, well, some say the statues were talking. Some say that he saw kind of deities in the sky talking. Anyway, he hears this conversation about one of these sort of goddesses says to the other how to achieve enlightenment quickly, and the other one says to practice bodhicitta, this altruistic wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. At any rate, moved by this, he then makes it his sort of single-pointed goal to receive all these teachings on bodhicitta, and inquiring in the area again to find who has the lineage, right? Who has the lineage of these instructions about how to generate bodhicitta. Then it was renowned that this master from Sumatra in present-day Indonesia, he had all the lineages of the bodhicitta practice. So then he went to Indonesia. It is said he took a 13-month boat ride, because on the way there was different obstacles, storms, and sea monsters, they even say, that were creating obstacles for him to go. Then anyway, the other thing that's quite interesting, I know Eve was talking about finding a guru and how to do that. So this guru, they call him Sir Lingpa, right? means the man from the Golden Isles, or Sumatra is the Golden Isles. So just like Tsongkhapa, Songkha is a place in Tibet, and Tsongkhapa, people are known for it's like the region they're from. So anyway, Sir Lingpa is this great master who's from Serling. Okay, but anyway, even when he arrives at Sumatra, he doesn't go and immediately see Sir Lingpa, but rather he spends some time just with the other students of Sir Lingpa, and kind of does his spying, asks the other students, "Oh, so you're a student of Sir Lingpa, huh? Okay, tell me about him." Kind of doing his homework, doing his due diligence, and not just jumping in to meet and take on a new teacher. But anyway, he was so impressed by the conduct of the other students. They kept their morality very well. They were very diligent in their studies and practice, and keeping the vows and so forth, that then this caused him to have a more sort of admiration and faith in Sir Lingpa. So then he trained, and I think he trained for almost a decade. Not sure, but yeah, a long time, and was then able to attain all of the realizations of these various bodhicitta teachings. Then after he did the training and attained the good qualities, and he then came back to India, and he then went to another monastery, Vikramalashila, in northern India, and was the kind of we can say manager there. I'm not sure, because as you know from the story, when Janchup comes from Tibet to invite Atisha back to Tibet with them, then it is said that Atisha kind of takes out his keychain, and he says, "I'd love to come back with you, but it's like the keychain is kind of symbolic. The more keys you have, it means the more things you're responsible for." So he brings out this big kind of keychain and is like, "But look how many responsibilities I have here. Yeah, sorry, I can't go back with you." Anyway, as you know, they were able to convince him in the end, and then he did many good works as well in Tibet. So anyway, I think most of the things that you'll now read will be fairly okay to understand. But yeah, if you have questions, we can talk about it later. Okay, so that's the greatness of the authors. So now, the next main outline, right, is the greatness of the Dharma given to increase one's respect for the instruction. Okay, so now these are how they're worded in the Liberation of the Palm Hand. And again, these first four, okay, they're the exact same in the Lamrim Chenmo. So you'll see these again and again, okay, and because of that, it's very important to be able to understand exactly what they mean. Okay, so these first four I'll talk about today, and I think that might be all the time we have. So then we have the greatness of allowing you to realize that all the teachings are without contradiction, the greatness of allowing all the scriptures to present themselves to you as instructions, the greatness of allowing you to easily discover the true thinking of the victorious one, and the greatness of allowing you to save yourself from the worst misdeed. Okay, so we talked about these three turning the wheel of Dharma last week. Okay, so the goodness of allowing you to realize that all the teachings are without contradiction. Okay, so this, we should say there's a lot of apparent contradiction because you'll come in across these kind of, seemingly paradoxical statements again and again. So here Nagarjuna says, everything is real and it is not real, both real and unreal, neither unreal nor real. This is the Buddhist teachings. Okay, so we saw in the Dhammapada, right? Where there it says, do not commit a single, non-virtue, accumulate a host of virtues. Thirdly, subdue your own mind. This is the Buddhist teaching. Okay, so yeah, that's one way. Now we get into, Nagarjuna's world, where then we have these statements. So, to someone untrained, it's like, what the heck are you talking about? Everything is real, not real, both real, unreal, not unreal, unreal, and this thought can come up. Well, of course, things can't be both real and unreal, right? It's either, one or the other, right? So there's a lot of kind of apparent contradiction. But as we talked about last week, then, sometimes, many times, we have to go beyond just the words there on the text. And then, as we saw, hold on. Okay. Yeah, look, where was it? Yeah, we had these turning of the wheel of Dharma, right? So we had, these three turning the wheel of Dharma. Then, initially at Varanasi spoke of selflessness of person, and then spoke of true establishment of the phenomena of the aggregate, right? Then later we have true establishment is refuted with respect to all. And then we have the third turning of the wheel, where these are, individually differentiated by, these three natures, okay? Anyway, we went over this last time, but there's this presentation of the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma that then were differentiated by the meaning of selflessness that is presented in them. Okay, so then, right? Why were these different presentations made? Okay, then comes like this, right? So all these various doctrines taught by the Buddha, then they rely on, or they depend on these two levels of truth, right? Two truths, the conventional and worldly truths, and the truths that are ultimate. Okay, so Nagarjuna then says, without depending on the conventional truth, the meaning of the ultimate cannot be taught. Without understanding the meaning of the ultimate, nirvana is not achieved. Okay, so again, we're going to go into these topics in a lot more detail. What I'm hoping to do, as we go through, I introduce a kind of concept. I give you a kind of 35,000 foot view of it, and then we continue to zoom in, and like we do this on a zooming in on a picture, we get more and more detail. We'll keep doing that. Okay, so now here's the 35,000 foot view, right? These two truths, all the various Buddhist tenet systems, there are these presentations of the two truths. Okay, and there's the conventional worldly truth and the truth of ultimate. Okay, so for Nagarjuna, for Chandrakirti, right, what we talk about with conventional worldly truth is the kind of things that are renowned in the world, right? So tables, chairs, you, me, as I like to say, if you were to ask someone totally untrained in philosophy, totally untrained in philosophy, Does the car exist? Do you exist? Right? And of course, they'll say yes, right? So everything that is sort of, true with respect to the world conventionally, okay? That's what is meant by conventional truth. And then the ultimate truth is then, if we were not satisfied with the kind of unanalyzed sort of innate view, right, of things, and we didn't want to just say, okay, yeah, a table exists, but if we were to poke deeper and say, okay, how does this table exist? Does this table, for example, exist independent of a mind perceiving it? There's that famous Zen koan: if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, doesn't make a sound, right? You've heard that, right? So anyway, right? Who asks these kind of questions, right? But that's what I'm saying. The conventional worldly truth, okay? If we don't ask these questions and confuse ourselves, we get along in the world totally fine, right? A table exists, a cup exists. If I say, okay, can you please bring me my cup? You say, which cup? I say, oh, the cup on that table. We have a totally intelligible conversation. And based on that, you come and you bring me my cup, right? So these things allows me and anyone just relying on the conventional truths, right, to make it in the world fine and get things done. Okay. All right. But so this concept of the conventional truth is like the foundation. Okay. But then, so that's what I was saying. Without depending on the conventional truth, the meaning of the ultimate cannot be taught. Without understanding the meaning of the ultimate, nirvana is not achieved. So what we're saying is, right, in order to, get my morning cup of coffee, in order to, make it in the world, I don't need ultimate truth, right? I'm not asking, okay, my morning coffee, those coffee grounds, when no one was in the kitchen overnight and there's no mind sort of apprehending them, were those coffee grounds still existing? It doesn't matter. I'm not asking these questions, okay? But you see, without understanding the meaning of the ultimate, nirvana is not achieved, okay? So although this kind of presentation of ultimate truth, it doesn't need to be known for to make it by in the world to achieve nirvana, we do need to understand, okay? So then this conventional truth, however, is the kind of basis of it, right? Because without having a sense of the world where on the worldly level things can function, then, well, the ultimate cannot be taught. So actually, there's a few ways in which this stanza is understood, but one way of thinking about it is, the meaning of the ultimate cannot be taught. What is then, how do we teach the ultimate, right? We teach through words, we teach through proof, we teach through treatises. And actually all those things are conventional truth, okay? But on a kind of deeper level, it also says in Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara that the conventional truth is the method, and the ultimate truth sort of arises from that, okay? So here, what that means is we can think included in the conventional truth is, the side of, karma. From good actions come happiness, right? From negative actions come suffering results, Okay, so we first, yeah, okay, right. Remember, we went through this before, right? Initially, they are the teachings on high status, then come the teachings on certain goodness, right? For having obtained high status, you gradually reach certain goodness. Initially, you stop the non-meritorious. In the middle, you stop the misconception of self, right? So these things, right? Initially, you stop the non-meritorious. The sort of following the law of karma, cause and effect. That's the initial practice that needs to be done, right? Then later, you stop the misconceptions of self. Okay, so you understand the non-understanding of how karma, cause and effect exist. That's still a misconception of conventional truth. Okay, so that's still not touching the ultimate level, the ultimate truth. Okay, then when we talk about stopping misconceptions of the self, then we're talking about ultimate truth. Okay, so anyway, so that's the point. So now, what does this then have to do with these three turning of the wheel? Okay, so here you see certain tenet systems, they assert that if phenomena were empty, that would result in nihilism. Nihilism being the utter non-existence of phenomena. And so here, especially nihilism about the conventional world. Okay, so here in the great the text, the Fundamental Wisdom by Nagarjuna, there is this 24th chapter, and this is the first stanza actually, where Nagarjuna brings up a hypothetical. Well, it's not so hypothetical, but a hypothetical challenger saying, he's sort of, the hypothetical challenger is saying to Nagarjuna, hey, if all of this, right, everything you've talked about were empty, there would be neither arising nor ceasing. And for you, it would then follow that the Four Noble Truths do not exist, right? Then actually there's several stanzas, I think 6 or 7 stanzas, where this hypothetical challenger then goes through all of the consequences in his or her mind, that if these things were empty, then the conventional nature wouldn't exist. Then he says, okay, if the Four Noble Truths don't exist, right, then the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha don't exist, then liberation doesn't exist. So all these things, wouldn't exist. So, you, Nagarjuna, and the people who follow your, philosophy, you are falling in nihilism. Okay, you understand? So, yeah, basically, let's think about it like this. When we're asking if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Okay. All right. Now, sometimes, okay, to be honest, I'm not sure. But sometimes, right, it's not that I'm just not sure, but sometimes I think, of course it does. Of course. Are you crazy? Right? And then sometimes I think, of course it doesn't, and then like either one is like, so extreme on either level, right? But you can imagine, okay, these people, okay, if we're thinking, of course it does, right? Then there's this view, right, that if these phenomena didn't exist independent from our mind, independent from a mind perceiving it, right? And somehow that they didn't exist in that way, well, then they'll just be like a kind of figment of my imagination, right? A mere projection, right? and they wouldn't have this kind of, real existence out there. Yes, of course it exists. It doesn't depend on me. It's out there. It's independent from my mind, right? So this kind of view, right? We see how then when we then start to poke and say, oh no, these things are merely imputed by our mind. They don't exist independent of our mind, right? Then the people will think, oh, well, this person, they're totally nihilistic then, right? If there's no external object independent from my mind, well then what do I mean by a tree if it's not for this thing out there independent from my mind that's growing in the forest? When I say tree, I don't mean something in my mind, right? So anyway, okay, by the way, then the Four Noble Truths don't exist. We talked about this: truth is suffering, truth causes suffering, truth is cessation of suffering, truth the path leading to cessation of suffering. So here, for you see, this one who's arguing with Nagarjuna, they're also a Buddhist. They know that Nagarjuna, on the face of it, he's claiming to be a Buddhist. And so for a Buddhist, when you say, oh, for you, it would follow that the Four Noble Truths don't exist, this is a very unwelcome consequence, right? So that's why, he's arguing to Nagarjuna in that way. Okay. Anyway, but now Nagarjuna's response, he's saying, okay, well, these conventional truths, actually, they only make sense within the kind of context of the absence of true existence. So here, another famous stanza. For those to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. For those to whom emptiness does not make sense, nothing makes sense. And then he turns this very argument on its head, and Nagarjuna says back to the person who challenged him, and he says, oh, if all of this were non-empty, as in your view, then there would be no arising and ceasing. It would follow that the Four Noble Truths would not exist. Okay? You understand? So basically, then, how we make sense of these different tenet levels, right? Then based on whether things can nominally or conventionally exist in the absence of true existence, okay, or inherent existence, then that forms one of the main kind of dividing lines between different tenet systems. Okay. And now here again we come to this, and again, since we have this initially you stop the non-meritorious, in the middle you stop the misconception of the self. So now, because these people need to rely on the conventional truth of the law of cause and effect, okay, and for those people, if things don't inherently exist, they can't make sense of how they would exist even conventionally. For those, then the Buddha taught that phenomena truly exist, inherently exist. Okay. Then later, for the people, for whom emptiness makes sense, and what then that means is, okay, here, right? For those to whom emptiness makes sense, everything makes sense. This means those for whom, within the lack of phenomena being truly existent, inherently existent, then they can still conventionally exist. It doesn't then mean it's nihilism. It doesn't mean they don't exist, full stop, whatsoever. Okay, so for them, then he teaches emptiness. Okay. Right? You understand? Yes, more or less. Okay. So this is the point. You know, we talked about this before, but you know, all of the various Buddhist tenet systems, right? The main kind of crux of truth on the conventional level is this thought of karma, cause and effect, right? We saw in the other stanza by Dhammapada, do not commit a single non-virtue, accumulate a host of virtuous actions. That's all, you know, based on, right, conventional truth. That's the main thing. So this, initially you stop the non-meritorious. That's the starting point, right? The foundation, as it were. So in order to have this, then one needs to make sense of a sense of personal identity that continues from life to life. Now, for some, actually, the Buddha taught that, you know, the self exists. This self that actually later, you know, a very gross sense of self. You know, did we go through that the mind training or thought experiment where we thought about you know, someone coming and saying, okay, I'll trade you your body and mind for, you know, someone else's? Did we go through this? Yeah. Dharmakirti brings this up in one of his texts. Anyway, right? We can imagine someone coming to you and saying, okay, I have a deal for you, right? We can, you know, I'll trade your body, you know, and give you a new body, right? Young, fit, you know, no aches and pains in the knees and back, right? Whatever you want, six-pack abs, I don't know what you want, right? And then we can give you the enlightened mind, you know, of Manjushri, or, you know, whatever you want. And then, you know, Dharmakirti asks us, well, later in Gyaltsab Je's commentary, he fleshes this out and says, you know, the mere fact that we can conceive of this, right, this would-be trade, and think, okay, would I do that or not, and not just dismiss it out of hand, kind of shows that we have a kind of conception of ourself being independent from the body and mind. By the way, we talked about aggregates. Sometimes you'll see this word aggregates, right? So the aggregates, just, you know, there are 5: the form, aggregate, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness. Anyway, we will get into that later, but for now, just think of this as the psychophysical components of the person, the body and mind, okay, broadly speaking. So the fact that we can conceive of such a trade and evaluate, oh, would I do that or not? It shows that we have a sense of an I that is independent from the body and mind, that would be the one making the trade, right? Yes? Otherwise, you know, it would be like, for example, if I said, if there's a fire, and I said, okay, you know what, bring the fire, but don't bring the heat of the fire. You'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? And you dismiss that out of hand, right? But we don't do that out of hand and say, what are you talking about? Me trading my body and mind for someone else's. We think, no, oh yeah, okay, who would I choose? Oh, Brad Pitt. Okay, yeah, okay. You know, we can do like that. So that shows there is this kind of innate, you know, conception of a person, a self, independent from body and mind. Now, for some, this self, if that one doesn't exist, independent from body and mind, then it's like, okay, well, because I, you know, I die, and you know, this body then will perish. If there is not some sense of I that's independent from my body and mind, well, what goes on from life to life? So for those people, then the Buddha even taught that this self exists. Okay. Then for the others, who can't make sense of, the mind existing without it being truly existent, right? Then the Buddha taught that the mind truly exists. Okay, this is actually what the mind only school holds, right? Mind only, right? Everything is in the nature of the mind. So for them, right, just like the dream. In the dream, there are those appearances of the various objects, not depending on an external object. I can dream I drove a Lamborghini last night. Then when I wake up, there's no Lamborghini in the driveway, right? Yeah, fine. Yeah, that appearance in the dream didn't depend on an external object. Okay, and all of our, life is like that. No external objects, nothing independent from the mind. But the mind, yes, that one truly exists. Yes, because every moment, we have the mind. It's kind of like Descartes, saying, I think, therefore I am, right? If you remember, in that thought experiment he did, he was trying to be, skeptical, question everything. Okay, well, maybe the external world doesn't exist, maybe, and then there he says, right, maybe I'm being tricked by a demon. More contemporary philosophers say maybe we're just a brain in a vat that is being probed, and or like the Matrix, right? Maybe we're like that, and we're having all these appearances, like in the Matrix, the guy eating the steak, right? So good. There's no steak. It's all all an illusion. But what Descartes says, right? I think, therefore I am. Then, he can be skeptical of everything, except even if there is this person being tricked, right? Well, there's that person who's being tricked. Even if I'm being tricked, there's a person who's being tricked. So I think, therefore I am. So I can't be skeptical about my own existence, because even if these other things, I'm being tricked, there's no external world, I'm a brain in a vat, I'm in the Matrix, there is still that I. You understand? So then, for those, right, then you teach on these different levels. And for those, it wouldn't make sense, right, for the conventional world to exist if the mind that's perceiving everything, if that doesn't truly exist, then, oh man, nothing can exist. Then for those, Buddha teaches, oh, the mind, by the way, that's truly existent. Don't worry. Okay. So for those, then, those are all in the context of making the conventional truth, the conventional level of truth, and particularly the thought of karma, the relationship between virtue and non-virtue, and experiences of suffering and suffering. And then this thought of a person, going from life to life and experiencing the fruits of the virtue and non-virtue that we've accumulated in the past, right? To make sense of all that, then these different tenet systems came up. And in those, teaching that the person exists, teaching, the mind truly exists, and so forth. Then later, right, once we're past, right? Remember, initially there are the teachings on high status. That's these teachings on karma. Then come the teachings on certain goodness. So that's in the middle, you stop the misconception of the self. Then the Buddha says, okay, hey, you know what? Before I said there's this, self independent from body and mind. Yeah, sit down. I have something to say to you. Take a seat. Right? Then pulls the rug out, from under us, and this doesn't exist whatsoever. So, yeah, let's see. Yeah, maybe that's good. We should maybe go into the breakout rooms. So, now, yeah, this time, good time for breakout rooms, right? Yeah, yeah. So why don't we get back together? Because there's a few things.
Can you stop the screen share?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh boy.
Actually, I can do it.
No. Okay. So let's get back together. Give me a little bit of time. So let's get back together and give me 10 minutes. So what we're gonna do in the time. Okay, couple things. One, did you have any questions from the readings? Okay, remember I had this set this bar, right? Of know every word. So go through that with your breakout room, right? There's some maybe mutual sharing that can happen, and then this concept, right? We're talking about to be able to realize that all the teachings are free from contradiction. Okay, so actually we've only talked about the apparent contradictions, right? And well, it's probably not too hard to figure out how then this lam rim helps to resolve that. But just make sure you have a good understanding of that. Okay, and then we'll come back. Yeah. So we talked about the contradictions. How then does the lam rim, help us to be free from those contradictions? The first greatness. All we talked about is those contradictions, right? The apparent contradictions. Okay? All right. Let's go to breakout room. That seemed a bit quick, but with you guys, I'm sure you're able to, penetrate all the profound meaning.
Sorry, I thought I set a timer that was accurate. Maybe I goofed it up.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I think
what's that? Okay. So anyway, how was those breakout sessions? You got what we were trying to inquire about? Are there any other outstanding questions?
Yeah. We had some questions.
Great.
In our room, Shanti pointed out that in the monasteries, you study the 5 great texts. And where does the Lam Rim fit in there? Do you study the Lam Rim in the monasteries, or?
So no, the Lam Rim, okay. Explicitly no. But you see, I think Pabonka Rinpoche, he even talks about this. So makes me then have a doubt whether you did the required reading. Let me try to find it. It's actually in that next outline, the ability to see all of the teachings as instruction. Okay, anyway. Okay, sorry, I can't find the passage now, but you know, Pabonga Rinpoche, what he's talking about is like some people, they think that all these philosophical texts, you know, it's just for debate, but you know, actually we it's all within the Lamrim. And see, this is the thing, and we only got to the first greatness about the you know, being able to see the teachings are free of contradiction. But the second point about being able to see everything as instructions for practice, you see, how the Lamrim does that, we now, you know, we have this overarching system, that big tree of the outline. Then actually, when we go through the other texts that we do study, or you know, for you, if you're you know, reading some other text, let's say you even read a sutra, you'll be able to say, like I recite, for example, the Sangata Sutra as a practice, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, this passage, it's all about you know, the faults of samsara. Oh, this passage is all about, you know, impermanence and death. Oh, this is all about you know, the suffering of falling from high to low. This is about the suffering of this, right? So you can see in these other texts how then it's populated, or how it then you know, correlates to various sections of Lamrim. But the Lamrim is not explicitly taught. Well, it's not explicitly part of the curriculum. In more recent times, because His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been emphasizing Lamrim, there even was a tradition of the abbot would give teachings on the Lamrim Chenmo every year. So we do have that. Anyway, you know, within the I think that this comes up when you read for next week. There's this thought of how the lineages are transmitted, right? And it talks about how in the Kadampa, there's the extensive treatise lineage, the Lamrim lineage, and the perceptual instruction lineage, the Mengak, right? So here, again, since people have different dispositions, then within the Kadampas, there were certain ones that studied. There's 6 great texts they studied, and they studied extensively. Then there's others that just, you know, study on the Lamrim, and then there's others that studied like the perceptual advice of their teachers. You know, sometimes they say like pith instructions. So, you know, just little bits and pieces of advice, short text. Okay, anyway, I see Eve is raising her hand.
Okay, my question is, it kind of follows up what I asked last week about a teacher. And when I'm reading, for instance, we were supposed to read day 3. It says it likens a spiritual guide to a sick person consulting a doctor and not, you know, from getting their own medications. So with that in mind, is this, and you know, I could die at any moment, and this is you know, I want to have a practice for at least a favorable rebirth. You know, I'd like to maybe be a nun, thing like that, or but if there's no time to lose, and I'm supposed to have a spiritual guide to teach me, but I'm supposed to wait around and not do that at the beginning. It seems like the first instruction is to have this guru, but then I'm supposed to put it on the back shelf, and that I'm having difficulty where I'd like a spiritual guide just to direct my practice, because I think it's a Zoom thing, but there's so much input that, you know, I've got 50,000 things that I should do every day. And I want to get down to, you know, what is it really, and talk to a spiritual guide rather than, you know, everything. There's just too many questions that I have. So how do I understand this? Getting a spiritual guide is as important. It says don't just get a book and read it. Where would I go if I wanted to have a spiritual guide?
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I'll say this, and I'm not trying to be funny, but it might come off funny. All right. So yeah, there are countless you know, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all around. There's countless qualified gurus all around. You know, but instead you have me. Okay. So for now, okay, until and hopefully one day soon, you know, you can meet someone, right? Yes, that's why I'm here. Okay. So in the absence of you know, being able to get a real qualified one, then yeah, you can ask me your questions. Take it with a grain of salt, right? Then you see, all right, Namjong said this, let me check it out. Don't just rely on me, don't just rely on the book, but maybe you put the two of them together and then you see, okay, oh yeah, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. At least it's not contradicting something that is in these texts I'm reading. And then, you know, take a next step. How's that sound?
Yeah, my finger wasn't pressing that correctly. So then my question is, if I want a daily practice and I want something in the morning and something at night, and I know 50 million things to do, or whatever I said, where do I start? You know, I mean, I have too much to start. I understand the big picture, but I need to make it be a little picture.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, great. So this is what we'll do, and this is actually now for all of you. Maybe you have a similar question. So for your practice now, if you don't have a daily practice, we can do the what we started in the last module, or the first module of the just a basic kind of mindfulness of breath practice, right? Sit down, calm the mind, count the breaths, right? Get a bit of focus, get a bit of calm. Okay. Now we also have the this foundation of all good qualities, right? Prayer that we did. So then every day go through that once. Okay. Then just like we did, you know, we recited it, kind of went through. Okay, do that a bit mindfully to the best of your understanding of all the things in there. But for one stanza, pause. Okay. Now let's forget about the first stanza. That's all about the guru. We'll start with the second stanza. Recognizing that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found just once, is greatly meaningful, and it's difficult to find again. Please best me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. Okay. So now, understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth. So now unpack that. Precious freedom. We know there's those 18 characteristics of the precious human rebirth. So now today you go through. Of the 18, then we also broke it down into 8 freedoms, 10 endowments. 4 of the freedoms are non-human, rebirths. 4 of them are human. So maybe, you know, depends how much you want to do, but just go through those and do that. You know, we did in the first module, that this precious human rebirth guided meditation. So do that every day. Maybe even today, it's just, okay, I'm not born in the hell realm, and just let that sink in until you get that like, wow, feel like you've found you know, a bag full of jewels. Yeah. Okay, do that. Okay, so what that means, there's those 3 elements, and then when you're done with that, finish the rest of the foundation of all good qualities. So you have these 3 elements of your practice. You're doing a seated, you know, calming the mind, focusing the mind practice. You have a glance meditation. They call it a glance meditation of the whole Lam Rim. And then you're delving in more deeply to one part of that. Okay, that's good. If you like, well, there's this other, you know, daily practice based on Shakyamuni Buddha, where you also can, you know, you visualize, you recite his mantra, this, that. If you're so inclined, you can also do that. That'd be very good. It's some purification. Now, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he has a kind of daily advice for practice. Sorry, advice for daily practice. And in that, he also says that, you know, he recommends people to do the prostrations to 35 Buddhas, Vajrasattva, you know, Avalokiteshvara practice, medicine Buddha practice every day. I'm not sure what your kind of background with, you know, mantra recitation and the Vajrayana is, if you have, you know, a lot of affinity to those practices. If so, you can also add them. Okay, but for now, that's good. Let's stick with that. And then you keep studying. You know, you have your this motivation, good motivation for study, and then, you know, we'll continue like that. How does that sound? All right.
Jan, did you have a question?
I just wanted to comment on that. Recently, I heard something that the Dalai Lama said. He thought that the part about the importance of a guru as a teacher first wasn't the best.
Yeah, you're breaking up quite a bit.
Yeah, that it would be better when people had had some experience beginning. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Yes, true. I didn't hear everything you say, but yeah, there is this thought that comes up. And actually, some of you might have heard of this text by Gampopa, the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, right? Anyway, in that text, which is similar to Lamrim, it's actually one that's written by you know, Gampopa, who's a Kagyu master. But there, whereas in Lamrim Chenmo, the guru comes first, right? The first topic in Lamrim. Then there it comes after the Four Noble Truths. So after the middle scope, or the middle capable being. But you know, yeah, there are different views. I know Eve has done this program before. You know, she's you know, very sincere. So you know, I answered you know, for her. But even that, the kind of general advice for practice then is there for everyone. So yeah.
I did have another question. I did have a question.
Please.
In the Foundation for All Good Qualities, there are 2 different stanzas where it says that you are saying that you are going to keep vows. One is the individual vows, and then I don't remember what the other vows were. but there's no place that I have seen those vows. I did look up the individual ones and found them after going back and forth in lots of different places. It wasn't easy to find them, but I haven't even tried to look up the other. I'm not sure what I found is what is meant in that particular stanzas.
Sure. So individual liberation vows, pratimoksha vows, there are 8 kinds, right? So there's a one-day vow. There is the lay vows for, you know, lay men and lay women. Those are, you know, three types of vows that aren't for monastics. And then there's 5 types of pratimoksha vows for monastics. So, you know, the 5 lay vows would be, you know, the vow against killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and alcohol, right? Yeah. Then there's other types of vows. There are Bodhisattva vows, and then there's the vows of the Vajrayana. So the Bodhisattva vows, then you can and should read about them before taking them. But it is said that the Vajrayana vows actually, the tradition is you don't take them. Sorry, you don't learn about them before you take them. The same actually is true with the monastic vows. Okay.
Wow.
So with the monastic vows, the thought is, right, the emphasis shouldn't be on learning the vows first and then saying, okay, yeah, giving up singing, dancing, okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay, giving up makeup, I don't, you know, wear makeup anyway. Yeah, I think I can do that. You know, that way of thinking is a bit weak. So the tradition was, you know, it's individual liberation. So instead, you contemplate the faults of samsara. You come to see that samsara is like a blazing pit of fire that you can't bear to be in for one more second. You come to see that the Buddha has taught this path to gain liberation from samsara. And so then you throw your feet, you know, you throw yourself at the feet of the Buddha and say, I want out of this hell. Tell me what I got to do. You understand? So that the way of approaching is totally different. So then you take the vows and then you're told. And then it's not seen as, oh, can I give this up or not? It's just stronger. Then of course the Vajrayana is you know, even more like that. It's not just you want out of you know, samsara, but you know, those sentient beings that we talked about that have been your mother countless times and are waiting for you to be enlightened. Then it's like every second that goes by is like you know, an eon. And yeah, you have to get enlightened as quickly as possible. So then you search for a way to achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. And then, you know, you enter the Vajrayana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're out of time, huh? But I had some questions for you coming from the reading. So remember, I said as a kind of benchmark for the standards we should have, is that we know every word, right? So when I was going over the reading, I found a few words, and I'm like, I bet these people might not know what these words are. So can I have a volunteer? Huh? Okay, Eve, thank you for volunteering.
Yes, I'm here.
You know, they say you know, be careful when you're spying on the guru, because the guru could be spying on you too. So
Could
this
be,
is right on, huh?
could be.
Yeah, so this is right on page 2 of the reading. It says, you know, if you want to go to pure realms such as Abhirati, Sukhavati, or Tushita, you can do so by means of this present physical rebirth. So
Yeah.
it occurred to me, oh, what can you tell me about pure realms? And
Okay.
what are these pure realms, Abhirati, Sukhavati, or Tushita?
Okay. So coming from my reading of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's book about samsara and the wheel of life and rebirths and stuff, when you can be liberated from samsara but not be enlightened, and so that's that middle ground where you're not, you know, going through creating and completing karma and all that. You've gone beyond that, but you're not enlightened as a Buddha yet. So I think that's where the Pure Lands would be. Am I close?
You know, yes, you're partially there. But anyway, I think maybe I should talk about this at some point in more detail. Yeah, and I will do that. I'm very I'm not going to get into it now, but I'll just then mention. So there is this other thing as well, okay? About the extensive deeds lineage and the profound lineage, right? So if you're not shaking your head like this, then you're making me nervous. It was in the teaching as well. So then the question comes up, like, what are those? Okay. And then there's one other thing. Hold on. My screen might go off because I'm gonna look in my. Oh yes, and there is also this presentation. Okay, there is this talk of how at present we don't know where we're going to be reborn in our next life, but we can know so through a how do they say, an inference. There's this place in the maybe the 5th page. There's a quotation from Precious Garland, and then after that, he. Yeah, here in this, it says, we cannot be certain even by means of direct valid cognition of such things as where we will go in our future rebirths. Nevertheless, our teacher correctly perceived this extremely obscure object of valid cognition and taught it without error. Thus, we can be certain only by using the Buddha's valid scriptures for an inference based on trust. Okay, so then it occurred to me, valid cognition, what is that? Extremely obscure object of valid cognition and inference based on trust. You guys know all that? So if not, then when you go through, that's what I'm saying, we don't just read like we're reading Harry Potter novel, but we read and we have our notebook next to us and we're like, okay, inference based on trust. Let me ask Namjong that next week, or let me bring that up next week. Okay. Anyway, so let's end the session. But then for next week, please, read day 2. And here again, there'll be a lot of names. That's okay. But there's other concepts that come. These concepts of these different lineages. I will talk about this next week. This thing that I just brought up about these different, obscure phenomena, valid cognition, that we also should talk about. So yeah, do the day 2 of the liberation of the palm of your hand. And then it'd be good to start memorizing the foundation of all good qualities. So here, just a kind of trick of the trade. You can try this or not, but one of my friends, he did a one-man play, and it's like, 90 minutes. So, these people who do, right, they memorize all their lines. So I asked him about it, kind of tricks of the trade. And he said, what a lot of actors do, they will memorize from back to front. Normally what we do, we memorize from the beginning, and then as we go through. But what that means is then when we actually have to do it on stage, then the thing that we have best is first. And then as we go through, we get weaker and weaker. So then by starting, back to front, right? Then as we go through, it'll get stronger and stronger, So you can start, maybe try, you do the last stanza first. And here, I'm going to just bring up the foundation of qualities again, right? So we do like this. You would even, start literally the last line, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara, okay? Now, you read that once. Now you don't look at it. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, you got it once, great. So now you go to the second to the last line. And by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths. Okay, so now, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, did I get both right? Okay, good. Now I can go to 3. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. Do I have the last 2? By swiftly, quickly, what is it? Oh, no. Oh, I missed the other line. And by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths. Okay. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. And by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, good. Then the 4th line. Okay. Now, in all my lives, I've served perfect gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. And by completing all the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I got the whole stanza right. Okay, now all of you are busy. When you get it once, okay, leave it. Then, let's say next hour, right? In the middle of your day, you go to get a tea, you go to do something. Then see, oh, that thing I was trying to memorize. In all my lives, never. Then it's okay, you've forgotten. You look at it again, and you get to the point where you can recite it from memory once without looking. Then leave it and do this throughout your day. Okay. Then by the end, in all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, yes, nice. Next hour, I try. I did it next hour, then I can wait 2 hours. And you keep, this is called spaced repetition. Those of you who are familiar with, there's a program, Anki, I'm not sure, A-N-K-I. It's a flashcard program that, is based on this. Anyway, you understand? So try to do that. Try to do 1 stanza a day. Then in 2 weeks, you'll have it. No problem. So this is what I'm saying. If you do just spaced out like this throughout the day, it won't take a long time. Here at the monasteries, people are trying to recite, memorize like hours at a time. Who has time for that, right? So just do little bit throughout the day, okay? All right, sorry, thank you for your patience. We've gone way over time, but hope that was useful. So let us just do a quick dedication here. Oh, so this actually is dedication. So let's do this. and all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing all the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Then here, may whatever virtue I've collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and may it especially cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrakta's teachings to shine forever. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Venerable Namjan.
Thank you.
Thank
Venerable.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen and Oz.
Much.
Okay.
Thank you.